25, 34 and 25. Genesis 34, 25. The book of Genesis, this is one of the darkest histories, the darkest, blackest night of the history of the nation of Israel right here. This is one of the dirtiest tricks that's ever been played on one human to another. And we have Jacob. Jacob had a daughter by the name of Dinah. Many women in the Bible are not even named. My wife was very excited the other day. She felt like she was being picked on. And because God didn't mention women in the Bible. And I said, well, women are very important, all right, but God doesn't name very many of them. When He names one, it's very important. And here we have one named. One of the daughters of Jacob was called Dinah. Now, what does Dinah mean?
Judge.
What? Judge. It's the feminine form of Dan. Okay? Now, Dinah was a young teenager girl, probably very young. The Hebrew calls her like 9 or 10 years old. Okay? Now, you have to remember that girls at that age, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, got married. Okay? 200, 300 years old. In 1874, my great-great-great-grandfather, Smith Paul, married he was 66 years old, and his last wife was a 14-year-old woman by the name of Sarah Ann Lilly. They had 6 children. She was born in 1860, and he married her in 1874. He was born in 1809, same year that Abraham Lincoln was, and that's just fine back in those days. All right? And that was in 1874. Okay? Now, that happened for many, many years. Now, this little girl, young girl, went out into the village of Shechem. Shechem means what? What does Shechem mean? Shelter or house. The city was named after a boy, a young man, probably maybe 30 years old. His father was named Jackass. Remember that? All right, that's Hamor. Okay, that's him. That means jackass or male donkey. Very strong man. So we have Hamor and we have Shechem here. Now, Shechem and Hamor is basically the ruler of this whole area. Jacob came in there and he bought a piece of ground from him that was a very beautiful pasture land. And they went and they bought it, and he got the title deed to it at the gate of the city in Shechem. And where he lived, you could look right up and see the very gate that went into the city of Shechem. So the girl, she dances around out there and goes up there and visits the ladies of the city. She has been out and living in tents all of her life, and this is something new for her. And she goes up there and starts looking around over and over again. This was not a one-time affair, okay? And she goes up there, and the Hebrew says that she keeps on eyeing Shechem, and Shechem keeps on eyeing her. All right? So Shechem, he decides to take her home one of these days. So he takes her home one day, and he undresses her. Now, he does not rape her, literally. But he did things that he shouldn't have done, and he falls nuts. He's nuts in love with her. Crazy in love with her, and she's crazy in love with him. It says their hearts are singing to each other. They're in love. He doesn't want to let her go. He wants her for his wife. And so Jacob finds out about it. Okay? And Jacob says, wait till the boys come home. And she has her brothers, you know, this is Leah's daughter. And anyway, they all come home, and he talks about it. And so they're going to go and confront Shechem and Hamor. So they do. They go up there and confront them. And so they go into the courtroom. Now they're in the courtroom. The courtroom is where in these ancient cities? Just inside the gate, all right? Inside the gate. Here's the big city up there on the hill. And right in here, in the entrance to a city, there was a gate, another gate, and right in here is a courtroom in every city. When you walk into the city, you walk through the courtroom first. That's just the way it is. They go in there and they started talking to one another and started making deals. And Hamor talks to Jacob and says, we want this girl. My son is in love with your daughter. And she is in love with him. They're in love. Their hearts are singing to one another. That's what it says. Their hearts are speaking to one another. They're in love. This is a true love story in the Bible, by the way. Girls like love stories, don't you? Girls? All right. This is a love story. Boys like love stories too, don't they? So anyway, now this girl, they keep calling her a virgin. She's still a virgin. Okay? And then Shechem starts pleading from his heart, please, please. Now you have to remember the customs of the day. They are the rulers of this whole area. Now, if a ruler was out here, if a chief of one of these tribes was out here and he saw a woman he wanted over there, he could take her. And you can jump in the creek. When David was up on the palace looking down, and Bathsheba was out there baptizing herself 12 times in the mitzvah there, he looked down upon her and he lusted after her, and he said, go get her for me. Now she was married, remember. If he'd wanted her, he could have said, I want her for my wife, and her husband would have given her to him. But he was being dishonest about this thing. Okay? Because he was a ruler. If he wanted anything, if he wanted somebody's wife, he could take her. Okay? Of course, he'd recompense him for it. You know, that was the whole story. Pay her for it. I'll pay him for it. But anyway, here we have Hamor and we have Shechem, and then Shechem begins. The fathers would normally talk to each other, not the bride and the groom had nothing to say usually. Nothing. They just stayed back there and shut up. But this time, this boy is so intensely in love with this girl, he said, please, I beg you, you put a price on that girl because I love her. You put a price on her and double it, triple it, quadruple. I don't care whatever you ask for her, I will pay. Don't hold back at all. And then the boys step up. The deceitful boys. The deceitful boys. They're thinking in their hearts. They're bad. These boys are bad. Levi and Simeon. Levi is the father of what?
The priest.
The priest. This is Levi, the father of all the priests. That's who he is. And he deceives him, and he says, okay, we are not going to allow our daughter to marry an uncircumcised man and live like you live with your gods and everything. That's what the whole story is who they believe and who they worship. And their custom is to circumcise all the men on the 8th day. These boys have got evil in their minds. Well, they said, okay, the only way that we will do this is blasphemy to our God. It would be profane for us to let a heathen marry our daughter. So you must become like we are. You must accept our religion. And you must be circumcised like we are. Otherwise, forget it. And Shechem says, I'm ready. Dad, I'm ready. Okay? Now, the boys don't usually say anything. Remember this. The children have nothing to say. The young people that are going to get married. Now, this boy is not a child. He's a grown man. He's a powerful warrior. And Hamor is a very powerful warrior. He's a great warrior. Okay? Well, they say, okay. So they're going to give them the money. They give them the money. They sign the contract. We're in court now. They sign the contract. All of these people, this is the first mass conversion to Judaism there is. Of course, we have Judah there, but this is what we call Israelitism. They become sons of Israel. And all the way back, one of the things they did, all the way back, Abraham would baptize. They said that he was the first man among the faithful to baptize. So they would baptize them. They would die This is where the proselytes. This is where Jesus said, "You must be born again." And when they were born again, they had to go through an oath saying that they're going to serve the Lord. They baptized them and they circumcised them, and then they died to their old nationality and they were raised to Israelism. So they had gone through all of this now. Here we are. We got a whole town converted. Every male in the town, from the little bitty boys, 8 days old and older, the little toddlers, the ones that take short steps, it says in Hebrew, the little tripping ones, step fast and fall. That's what the babies are called. All of them are, every male in the town has become an Israelite convert. They swore that they're going to do this. They signed a piece of paper. And they witnessed before all of the heads of the families, and all the heads of the families were circumcised and gone through all of this. Okay? Now, that's where we are in the story. Okay? 34:25. Wahi. Bayom. Ha Shilashi. Be Yotam. Ka Avrim. Wayikhu. Shanae, Benay, Yaakov, Shimon, we Levi, Ahi, Dinah, Ish, Charvo, Wayavu, Al, Ha'er, Mitah, Waya, Hargu, Kal, Zakar. And it became, in day the third, Ha Shiloshi, in day the third, in their becoming in terrible pain and sickness. You have to remember, there are no antibiotics, there are nothing. These men have all been circumcised, they are suffering. The adults are in terrible shape. They're suffering and they're in pain. And they took, we need more books, volume 4, don't we, Marilyn? Okay. And they took and kept on taking 2 sons of Jacob, Shanae, Benay, Yaakov. The 2 sons of Jacob, Simeon. What does Simeon mean? What does Simeon mean? Simon in the New Testament means what? To hear. Thank you, brother. You got an A+ for tonight? And Simeon, we Louis, Louis, that's Levi, all right? And Levi, what does Levi mean? What does Levi? Do you remember what Levi means? When Levi was born, remember what his name meant? Remember? Leah said, "Now my husband will be attached to me. He will love me. He will be attached. He will be joined. He will attend to me and my needs." That's what Levi means. Okay? Brothers of Dinah. Each man, his sharp knife. And they kept on coming upon the city. They kept on coming upon the city. Now, what does the word city mean there? Ha'er. What does the word city mean? What does the word city? You remember what the word city means?
With walls.
It's a walled city, and it has watchtowers. It's a protected city. That's the idea, protected city. All right? In security. They were safe. They didn't have anything to fear. They had made a contract with these people. They had nothing to fear. Not only did they have nothing to fear, the men were defenseless. And they kept on killing. They kept on murdering. They kept on slaughtering all males. They kept on slaughtering all males. What a wonderful thing. The whole city is converted. Now these guys are going to murder them all because they're defenseless. They're going to kill them all. We have Hamor. We have Shechem, Bano, Harigu, Lefi, Charif, Y, Yikchu, Eth, Dinah, Mibeth, Shechem, Shechem, and then Y, Yitchu, Y, Yitchu. Then we have the word with there, we-eth, that means and signed to the direct object. Something's going to happen to something after this. Okay? That's what the direct object means. And Hamor. And Hamor and Shechem. Hamor means strong man, jackass. Like a strong donkey. The male donkey is very strong. It can carry a whole lot of weight. A lot of weight compared to other animals the same size. This was a strong man. And Shechem, his son, and they had killed. They had killed. Lifi. Lifi. Lifi is an unusual word. It carries it over from the Hebrew into the Greek. Lethe means what? Preposition on the front of it. That's Lamet, 515 is that page in Brown, Driver, and Briggs, okay? And then Fene, what does that mean? Or Pene? Mouth. Mouth. Now, how many of you got a sword or a knife at home? Maybe you got one in your pocket. I don't know. Anybody got a sword in your pocket? Anytime you see it, isn't it, he's got a knife and a gun. That's all I can tell you. All right. A knife. This knife had two mouths. In the book of Revelation, it says that out of Jesus' mouth, out of Jehovah, Adonai, Ha-Adonai, out of the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, was a two-mouthed sword. A two-mouthed sword, that's what it calls it. A sword, an edge of a sword cuts like your teeth. You have teeth, all right? They cut. You bite on somebody, and they cut, okay? A knife, if it's a single-bladed, single-sided or double-sided, it's either a single-bladed knife or a double-bladed knife. A samurai sword is usually a single blade, very sharp. Many knives are double-bladed. They'll cut both directions. They went after them with these double-sided knives that could cut both directions. And they slaughtered, and they slaughtered, and they slaughtered, and they slaughtered. Every time a knife cuts, it cuts just like teeth cutting through somebody. Like taking a bite out of somebody. That's what the idea is, to take a bite out of them. With the sword, with the mouth of the sword. And they kept on taking. And they took. Dinah, now she's the object of the direct object, okay, from house of Shechem. And they kept on going out. 34:27. Bene, Yaakov, Bo, All, Ha-ha-li-lalim, Ha-ha-lalim, Y-ya-va-zu, Ha-er, Asher, Te-miu, Ha-chotam, and sons. We have the sons. What does son mean? Comes from Ben. What does it mean? According to a pattern. The sons of Jacob. What does Jacob mean? To follow the heel. All right, sons of Jacob. They had come upon the stabbed ones, the pierced ones, the slaughtered ones, the slain ones, the chopped up ones. That's what it means there. And they kept on plundering. Not only murderers, now they're thieves. They gave them a high price for this girl. And they paid more than they would have paid for any other girl. Because the man loved her and evidently she loved him. And they had become converts. Now they're going to murder everybody in town. And now they're going to steal everything that's not nailed down of the city, higher. The guard and the watchtower placed, but at this time, they were safe. They had nothing to fear. They had disabled every man in the city. Too bad they didn't have a few Indian warriors like they had some of the women in America did. Some of the women among the tribe were warriors. Did you know that? The women, many of the women in the tribe, they all voted just like the men in America. There was a pure democracy here when they came here on this land. They didn't know anything about democracy in Europe, but among the tribes in North America, all the women voted. The lineage went to the women. Women got to go to school. Did you know that? The Cherokee and the Chickasaw had seminaries way back in the 15s and 1600s, and the girls could go to school. They didn't have any rights over here. Too bad they didn't have some woman warriors here that could stand up when the men were down. Because, Asher, Temu, this is their excuse. They had defiled their sister. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Since they had become circumcised, were they going to defile the girl? Since they had become converts, were they going to defile the girl? Jacob would never have agreed to this. Jacob was a man of honor. I told you that you look at his life and you just see a man of honor. People had given him a bum rap a lot of times. And here was one time where he got a bum rap again. Because what his boys did, he's going to be responsible for. And he's sick. He is sick of this. This is a horrible thing. Most horrible thing. Talk about genocide. Talk about ethnic cleansing. You're not going to find anything worse than this. They go in and murder a whole city that have become converts. That's the worst thing. Et sonam wiet bikaram wiet hamarihem wiet asher ba'er wiet asher ba'seda likachu. What else did they steal? They stole everything in the houses. They stole everything in the houses. They went in there and murdered every man and began stealing every nice, clothing was treasures back then. By the way, there was a lot of gold thread in clothing. There was a lot of fancy. There was all kinds of fancy clothing in this city. They stole it all. In the 1830s, in America, President Andrew Jackson originated the Indian Removal Act. The Chickasaws and the Cherokees and those that were here this morning, I heard this a little bit. The Supreme Court made a decision whether Andrew Jackson was right when he did this Indian Removal Act, and they said he was dead wrong. He was against the Constitution of the United States. They had imposed upon an independent nation, and no states' rights could overcome a nation within a nation. And these people had right to their lands, and what they're doing were wrong. And old Andrew Jackson says, ha, 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 watch them stop me. And he began to remove those people. They would go into a plantation. You've seen some of these southern plantations where they had these great big Corinthian pillars and all this stuff in front. That's what the Indians owned. They weren't savages in tents. They were in these. My family lived back in Mississippi like this. They went into the North Carolina, the western part of Carolinas, and Tennessee, and they started just going in there at gunpoint and taking people from their tables. At prayer meetings, they had churches, they had seminaries where you teach the Bible in the Cherokee and the Chickasaw Nation. The Baptists that were among them, there were some good Baptists back there. They arrested them and put them in jail because they stood against it. They would come in there and move those people out, and here would come the rats into there and stealing everything of value in those homes. Tearing the pillars down. And whatever was left after it had been rifled, then they would auction it off to a lottery. That happened. This really happened. This is history. Had one man tell me one time, he says he had come from a foreign country, and his family had been here for about 100 years. And I told him about this. He said, I don't believe it. Didn't happen. I told you before, one time one of my teachers was one of the SS troopers of Hitler, one of his junior SS troopers. We went to see that movie, The Hiding Place, a long time ago. I said, what do you think about that? And he said, didn't happen. I was there. Didn't happen. Then it happened. I was there. That didn't happen. Denial's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Well, here, there's no denying this happened. God decided to put it in his book. Why did God put this in the book? Why did he put this in this very valuable book of human history? To show that even God's people can be wrong. And they do wrong things. And we can make all those stupid same decisions. And their flocks, that's the sheep and the goats. And their larger cattle, that's the Bak Haram, that's the big ones. That's their large cattle, that's the ones that can carry a plow and all of that. And here is the word, remember Haran? Ha-ma-riham. That's the word Haram comes from. Right there. The donkeys, the jacks, the male donkeys, the jackasses, okay? And whatever, and which is in the city, and what in the prairie. Everything that was in the city, every man had been killed, so they ravage and rifle everything. They steal all the women. Now, listen, if their one daughter was not, the men were not worthy until they became circumcised and became converts, now they're going to kill all of those men and take their women and rape them and ravage them and take them for wives and slaves. Everything in the prairie, the moist lands, they had taken. 34:29. Weeth, Kal, Chilam, Weeth, Kal, Tapam, Weeth, Nishihem, Shavu, Wayavazu, Weeth, Kal, Asher, Babayet. And all of their wealth, all of their strength is what it says. The Old Testament guarded against someone accumulating too much wealth in the Old Testament. The Lord taxed them, or they couldn't accumulate too much, so they wouldn't become too powerful. With wealth comes power. And usually when you have the very wealthy, by the way, in America today, the rich haven't got poorer. Did you know that? During this depression, you know who got poorer? The middleman and the poor. Not the rich. The rich are getting richer. That's it. The rich are getting richer. All right? Wealth is strength and power. They stole all of their strength, all their wealth, and all of their little ones. That's the little ones taking little bitty baby steps. They sold all of their babies. Their babies get to be slaves now. The little stumbling ones. Little quick steps. The little quick steppers. And their wives, the ones that were supposedly so defiled, and they carried them captive. And they kept on plundering, and they kept on plundering, and they kept on plundering. Wayavazu. That means the sign of the direct object, and everything in front of it is the sign of direct. And all which in their households, they plundered all of their households. They plundered all of their households. Now Jacob gets mad. He's mad. Wyomer. See, I told you, Hannah. Wyomer. Yaakov. El Shimon. Wiel. Levi. Kartem. Oti. Li Hava Ishani. Bi Yashem. Haaretz. Ba Kanani. Yuva Perezi. Jacob was mad, and boy, I mean, he was talking. And he kept on saying, that's what Jacob, he just kept on talking, Jacob, unto Simeon. He is telling Simeon off. Telling Simeon off. Now, I don't think that Jacob ever beat up on his kids much, but he's sure given them a talking to right here. Given them a talking to. When I was a little kid, Indians kind of act like these people over there. Indians basically don't whip their children. Did you know that? American Indians didn't whip their children. Didn't do that. But they talked to them. Usually talk to them quietly. I think Jacob was a little bit mad. He was probably talking a little loud right here. My grandfather gave me a hatchet one time. He was Cherokee, and my grandmother was Chickasaw. And my grandpa gave me a hatchet, and I was probably not even 2 years old. Now, this is a sharp hatchet. If I ended up with any fingers left, I guess I'd learn how to use that hatchet, you know. But I went out there, and we had a wood stove in a little shack we lived in without a door on it, just had a flap for a door. I went out there, and I chopped up everything in sight. And here I am, a baby. I had blisters on my hands from chopping, but I wasn't finished yet. I wanted to chop something down that was standing up, you know, like George Washington did. Chop down the cherry tree. I went out there, and the front porch was standing there, and I said, they just put up a lean-to on the front porch, you know, a little, just 2x4s patched together, you know, because they didn't have any boards long enough to make it all the way up. My grandpa's in the bed in the house, and it's kind of wintertime out there, and I'm out there in a diaper, running around with a hatchet. I start chopping on that leg of that porch. I kept on chopping. I was pretty tenacious until it fell on my head. I got out from underneath it. He went out there and never said a word to me. He took my hatchet, put it back underneath the bed, and went back to bed. Never said a word to me, because I knew one thing: I wasn't going to do that again. I didn't want the thing falling on my head anymore. I was a pretty dumb little kid, but I wasn't going to do that again. I learned on my own. And all my fingers they're kind of beat up, but they are here. I still got 10 of them, you know, see. And kept on saying unto Jacob, or Jacob unto Simeon. Simeon means what? One who hears. I hope he listens. And unto Levi, Louis, like Louis, you have disturbed. You have muddied the waters. You have caused a tornado. You have caused havoc and ruin with me. Okay. To make me stink. Infinitive construct, hiphel. You made me stink for yourselves. I didn't have anything to do with it, boys. I would have never okayed this deceptive mess. Suffix, first person construct, singular. You have made me stink among the citizens, the ones dwelling. Masculine, singular, cow, participle. Among the citizens. Say, what is a citizen? What do you think about a citizen? What is a citizen? What's a citizen? Huh? One of the landowners. A citizen is not an outlaw. I didn't raise outlaws. I'd kill them. My boys, when they were growing up, I said, you either mind or I'll kill you and make another one. You're going to grow up to be citizens. You're going to grow up and you're going to work and you're going to obey the laws of the land and you're going to do right. You know what? Talk to them. Citizens. These people were citizens. These weren't outlaws. These are not a bunch of maniacs out there running around. These are citizens. He said, you have made me stink among the citizens of the land. Ha'aretz. Among the Canaanites, the Canaanites, and among the Perizzites. The Perizzites. What does Perizzite mean? Perez. What does Perez mean? You remember what the Perez means? It means to divide. It means to divide. Perizzites, they think maybe among these Perizzites, these are the people, the first people here to coin coins. There's different words for coins here, but these are the ones that made small coins. They would take silver and gold and even brass, and they would pound it out and strike an image on it. And it says small broken pieces, these small coinage. These people were civilized. They were civilized. They had money. They exchanged money. They weren't just trading in matchsticks or whatever. They had coins. They had a commerce. These were citizens in this land. 34 in verse B, part B. Wa'ani, Mete, Mispar, we Naesfu, Hale, we Hikkanui, we Nishmadti, Ani, Uviti. And I, of men, assembly, that word mishpar, assembly, a number. And if they are gathered, assembled against me, this place is full of people, lots of cities. Jacob's family has gone in and made an alliance with this city. They are intermarried with this city. When you made an intermarriage, you became, their family was going to be your family. Their children were going to be your children. Their grandchildren were going to be your grandchildren. So you were supposed to live at peace with them, but instead of living at peace with them, they murdered every one of them. And so what they said here, he said, wherever we go, they're going to remember what happened here at Shechem. They'll know that they can't trust you, bunch of brats. They can never trust you. They can't believe anything you say. You've broken your word. And we swore in the name of Jehovah. They did. They swore in the name of Jehovah. This contract, this covenant, this barith. Wow. If they are gathered against me, they will strike me. They will have struck me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my household. There's fear in Jacob, isn't there? Why is there fear in Jacob? He's already getting to be an old man. Why is there fear in Jacob? Why is he afraid his household is going to be killed? Because he's thinking about the promises of God. This is going to be God's nation. And these boys have blown the whole history of Israel, maybe. All the promises that God made to Abraham and Isaac and now to Jacob, and has named Jacob Israel. What does Israel mean? What's Israel? What? Wrestle with God. You wrestle with men and you wrestle with God and you overcame. And now their very destiny is at stake. They could kill them all. And all the promises of God that has been handed down from Abraham, all the way from Noah, by the way, all the way from Noah, all the way from Adam, or could be in the absolute destiny of the people of this land. He said, you have jeopardized and put in jeopardy and endangered the whole promises of God. 34:31. Why yomeru? Huk zol na. Why se et chotenu. And they kept on saying, like a harlot, like a harlot, like a harlot, shall one treat our sister. Well, that's what the excuse was. Did they treat her like a harlot? Well, they paid a high price for that girl. They honored her as a princess, like they were buying and purchasing one of Pharaoh's daughters. They had paid a high price for her and honored that family by even adopting their religion and custom. So this is baloney. That's just words. Now God, Jehovah intercedes. Jehovah intercedes. Wayomer, Elohim, El Yaakov, Gom, Ale, Bethuel, Wishev, Sham, Wa Esah, Sham, Mizbeah, Lael, Hanere, Elika, Babarit, Chaka, Mepane, Esau, Achika. And he kept on saying Elohim unto Jacob. Now God steps in and says, Lord, boy, I'm the Lord that have talked to you all this time. I'm the Lord God of heaven. Arise. Get out of this place where they have ruined your name. Ruined my name. Get out. Arise. This is a command. Masculine, singular, call, imperative. And you go. Masculine, singular, call, imperative. And then you go up to Bethel. What's Bethel mean? What's Bethel mean? Beth El, the house of God. Now, I've heard, I guess, in the last 2,000 years or more, this sermon has been preached thousands of times. And the old story is, Brother Eunice, you've been a Baptist for a long time, haven't you? In Baptist church. How many times have you heard this sermon preached? Grab up the kids, scrub them up and wash them, and let's go to the house of God. Now, that sermon's been preached thousands of times. All right. That's an old sermon. A lot of times. Scrub the kids, put on new clothes, and let's go to the house of God. There's a reason for it. And said Elohim unto Jacob, Arise, you go up to Bethel, and you keep on dwelling there. And you make there an altar to God, the one who appeared. See, this is the God who appeared unto you. See what it says there, Brother Mike? God appeared unto him, didn't it? In your fleeing from face of Esau, your brother. Jacob's life was a life full of fleeing. A life full of fleeing. This is the man of many troubles. A man of many troubles. A man that was just sickened with his children's behavior. A life full of challenges. A life full of challenges. Full of trouble. 35 and verse 2. Wayomer. You got that one, Hannah? Wayomer. Can you say that? Wayomer? Good. That's real good. Yaakov. El. Bito. Wiel. Kal. Asher. Imo. Has. Siru. Et. Elohi. Ha. Nakar. Asher. Bito. Kikim. We hit Tar Haru. We ha cha lifu. Sema lo tikem. And he kept on saying, Jacob unto his house. That means all of these boys, all of their wives, all of his wives that were left. And unto all of who, that little Asher, that's a particle of relation. Page 81 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. And with him, Imo, remove. Masculine, plural, hifel, imperative. Remove. Get out of here. All right? Remove and get out of my sight all of the idols. Where do these idols come from? Where do all these idols come from? You know who the idolaters were in Jacob's family? It wasn't the ones in Shechem now. They got to be converts, but his own children. And who had brought the idols into his family, into his village? Rachel. Because she was an idolater. Because her father was an idolater. Laban was an idolater. God had to get him out of Haran because they were full of idolatry. And his wife, his favorite wife, the one he really traded for and worked 7 years for, the one he loved, brought the idols. Because those idols, those teraphim, what did that mean? Remember about these teraphim? Come on, this is a review. This is a test. What does teraphim mean? What? It means that they were images of their ancestors, ancestor worship. And they would pray to their ancestors. Laban would pray to his ancestors and ask them for help, like the Buddhists. Okay, like Buddhists today. They would pray to their ancestors and ask for help. And any man that had the idols, these teraphim, these little idols, the ancestors were with him. So when Rachel left, she took her daddy's idols because she wanted Jacob to be the head of the family, the patriarch of that family. Because she thought he was a better guy than Laban was. Chris.
She took the idol. You know, I kept forgetting to ask you that question. Did she take him on a spite, or did she actually?
She wanted her husband to be the leader of the family. She thought that she was taking the gods with her. To her, she didn't believe in one God. She believed in gods, which were the ancestors. Okay?
In the 7 years that Jacob worked to get her, she learned nothing from Jacob's on. I mean, after
She was living in this thing where she'd grown up. She was living among these heathens.
But what does this say about Jacob now telling him to take God's out of the house instead of giving out when he left Laban alone?
Because he was sick of it. Sometimes you have to get sick of all of that before you finally get with it. Clean house. Now he realizes that he's got a clean house. This is time to clean house and change these boys' lives. I've been out there worshiping one God all this time, and my kids are a bunch of heathens following all these gods. Thank you, Brother Prepare. They've been wearing down and worshiping, praying to their ancestors. Yes.
Rachel hit those guys.
Yes, she hit them.
Jacob didn't.
Evidently, he figured it out sometime or another. I mean, this is many years later. Now, all of us, and Rachel's dead. Maybe he went through her things, okay, and saw the gods. And maybe she had given out a few gods to this son and a few gods to that son to make sure that the good vibes would follow her children, as they say in the world today. Yeah, saints. They were like little saints. They were little idols, is what they were. He said, clean house. First thing you do is get rid of all of the idols. I don't want to see an idol anyplace. No more idols. Unto all who with him remove the idols, the little gods, the demons. You know, in every St. Christopher medal and all of this stuff, there is demons. Did you know that? What is the power that draws people to these things to kiss them? What is the power that draws people to worship and bow down and pray to Mary? Or to pray to St. Christopher or Patrick or whatever? Demons. Demons, they have demons in them. He said, clean the house, get the demons out. The strangeness. The strangeness. That word strangeness right there, that is word ha-nikar. Say ha-nikar. There's bad in that word. You know what's in that word? It's deceit. Lies. Crookedness. Nakedness. Wickedness. Evil. Crooked ways. Get the crooked ways, which is in your midst. Get the evil, get the deceit. And purify, spiritually purify. We hit haharu. Spiritually purify yourselves. He told them they needed to take a bath. They needed to be dipped. They'd already dipped these people up there in that village, and they'd already circumcised every one of them according to prescribed law at that time that God had prescribed to Abraham and then to Isaac and now to Jacob. They knew how to do the circumcision. They had the ceremonial knives. They did all this stuff. They went through the cleansing. He said, now you people need to get saved because I got a house full of idolaters. Now you people need to get saved. You need to spiritually cleanse yourselves and leave this deceit and wickedness. Arum, say out arum. And we nahash. Arum. And the serpent became more deceitful, more wicked, more naked than all the other beasts of the field in Genesis, the 3rd chapter. He became hagi. He became more wicked than all of the beasts of the field because he loaned his body to Satan. That's why. And even in the millennial reign, we find out the serpent's still walking in the dust of the ground with no legs, crawling on his belly. He cursed him so much that even through here, when all the other animals are not eating each other and the lions are eating grass, like a cow, and everybody's digestive system has gone back the way it was before the flood, the serpent's still going to be eating his food in the grass and walking on his belly. And change. Waha halifu. And change, masculine plural hefel, imperative, and change your clothes. That word clothing there means to fling around. I want you to change your filthy, blood-stained blood money. You ever heard of blood money? My great-grandmother told me one time, when I was a little boy, I had been working out in the cotton fields. And I worked really hard out there picking cotton on the ranch out there where I live right now, and a few other places. Picking cotton one bowl at a time, just putting it in a sack, and then taking it and dumping it in these big cotton trailers. I was out there working, and I went down to Benjamin. What was that place down on Baker Street? Ben Franklin's down there. Ben Franklin's. They had a basement down in that place, and they had the neatest looking cat pistol you ever saw. And I was always, being an outlaw. I always liked guns. And this pistol looked like a Colt 45, and it had bullets in it that looked like real, and they had hollow points in it, and you'd put this cap right in the bottom. They had little cartridges, and you put the bullet in there, and you put it in this thing, and it shot smoke out the barrel every time you pulled the trigger. Boy, I wanted one of them. And I had this pistol, and I was playing with the rest of the kids around the neighborhood and everything else. I had myself a nice pistol. My great-grandmother, she was out there. She lived in a little old trailer out there. And there was this little Okie boy that came over there, and he was not a good boy. He was a little bigger than we were. In trouble a lot. He came over, and he says, I'll rent your pistol from you. I will pay you $10 if you let me rent that pistol, and I'll give it back to you tomorrow. And he came back, and he gave me $20. And then he wanted to come back and rent it again. My great-grandma said, that's Sam Paul's daughter now, the real Rooster Cogburn's daughter. She said, Jimmy, that's blood money. That boy's not honest. He did something. He robbed somebody or something. Come find out, he robbed a store with it. That pistol. They came hauled him off later on. That was blood money. Everything that they had that they stole from this city was blood money. And clothing was money. This fine clothing from this village of Shechem was all blood money. He said, get your clothes off. Get them filthy, blood-stained clothes off. Dishonest gain. And clean yourselves up. Spiritually cleanse yourselves. And change your flings, your clothing that you fling around your body. I want you to get clean from idolatry. This word here, tahar, we hit taharu. Masculine, plural, Hithael, imperative. That means to declare ceremonially clean, to declare white and bright, like white clothing. Remember, we talked about the 10 virgins this morning. They all had the same clothing. That all stands for religion. And they all had lamps. And I said this morning when I was teaching the class, it's better to have no religion than the wrong religion at all. It's better to have no religion. It's easier to convert somebody that is not indoctrinated in the ways of hell and start off clean with a clean slate and tell them the truth, and they can be saved easier. It means to wash yourself with water and become morally clean from idolatry and stay away from corpses. Stay away from corpses. Any time that a man died or a person became sick and died in the land of Israel later on, this is before the law, but later on, they would declare that area and anybody that touched the person unclean. Unclean. And they stayed unclean until they went out and they made a... How did you get clean? How did you get ceremonially clean? First of all, somebody had to die. Something innocent had to die. So you went out and killed a lamb. They did kill red heifers. And they would burn the red heifer all the way down to where it was completely nothing but ashes. Burn it completely until there was nothing but ashes. Then they'd take ashes and they'd put it in flowing water. Water that had not come out of a cistern. It had to be flowing water. Out of a spring. Or a river. That's what you call living water. They would take the ashes in this clean water, this living water, because if you go up in a stream, used to before we had all of this giardia and stuff and mounds up here, Brother Euless, you'd gone up there on hikes and used to have a Sierra cup probably, didn't you? Carry it on your side like this and you could just dip down there because every 100 to 150 feet the water's purified. And now we've got too much junk in water. Because it's running water, it's what we call living water. You could reach down and you could get a drink of that living water. That was good water. I still have my Sierra cup, even though it's not any good for anything anymore. Everything's polluted. They would take this living water and they would put ashes in it. Now, how many of you know what lye soap is? Huh? Yeah, Maryland does that all the time, except she don't do it right. My grandma and my great-grandmother always washed clothes. How many of you ever seen that picture of my great-grandmother where all her clothes, Sam Ball's daughter, just filthy? She was out there washing clothes over a wash tub with a fire and a scrub board. And she'd get all dirty. But she would make her own soap, and what they'd do is they'd get ashes. And they'd put ashes in a trough and they'd run water down it. And the water they would take and mix with lard. And they'd take it and boil it. And the lard, and they'd put the ashes in it. And those ashes purified and cleansed because it's got lye, natural lye in it. And they were really clean stuff. My grandmother used to take in laundry and wash these lawyers' and doctors' clothes and those white shirts and everything else and wash them in that lye soap with a scrub board and out in the yard, and then iron them with flat irons. You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? That's irons you put on a wood stove. You get them hot on a wood stove. And then you take them and iron, and you have a whole brace of them. You have several of them. You just keep moving around. And she cleaned those clothes up white. And that's what Jacob's telling them boys. You go get some ashes from a sacrifice. Because you boys did wrong. You go get a sacrifice. You burn that sacrifice. And then you take the ashes from that sacrifice, which typifies your cleansing. You put in that water, and you wash yourself, and you wash your clothes. Because you're dirty. Then you become ceremonially clean. In Ezra 39 and 12, 2 Chronicles 29, 15 through 18, 2 Chronicles 34, 3 through 8, Numbers 8 and 7, Leviticus 16 and 19 and 14, 4 through 31, Joshua 22, 17, and Malachi 3 and 3 talks about all of this spiritual cleansing. All the spiritual cleansing. Is Ewan's ready to stop yet? Have we gone far enough tonight? You ready to go? Turn you loose on the world, go out and do something spiritual, and do something eternal. We'll start in 35 and verse 3 next week. I hope you enjoyed studying God's Word. Did you learn something tonight? Did you learn something? All right. Where did we start tonight? 34:25. 34:25 through 35 and verse 2. We got old Jacob over here, and now he's going to go to the house of God, and we'll find out the rest of the story next week. All right, who's going to come up here and dismiss us in prayer? Chris, we missed you. You want to come up here? I didn't scare you to death, did I? We got two Chris's here. She thought I was talking to her. No, that one. No, she doesn't want to come up here. If I got her up here, she'd be turning red and pink and yellow and every other color before she got here. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Now, her daughter will get up here and she'll just talk up. She's real good before a camera. She loves it. All right. Would you dismiss us in prayer, please, Chris?
Okay. Thank you, God, for what we learned today, and help us take it with us throughout the week and prepare ourselves for next Sunday. God, just thank you for this day and what we have learned and will be learning. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.